What up, Eric? I think it's just me and you in here today, bro. I think it's just me and you, but we're gonna make it happen. Bim, 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 boom. Hell yeah, I guess don't nobody really care, bro. Just me and you, but we gonna rock this live like it's 1,000 people in here, man. You know me. It don't matter, one person, 2, 10, 100. Man, I'm still gonna put on a live show, man. All right, well, Eric, it's me and you. We're gonna get this thing started. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna warm it up. All of this is a pause moment, but we're gonna get this thing warmed up. We're gonna jump into this because I heard about it a while back, but I never paid no attention to it until it finally started to go down. So I'm trying to get some of the timeline so we can see when all of this started. Because once again, I'm gonna dispel all of the rumors about, you know what I'm saying, number 45. You know what I mean? Everybody hypes number 45 up about 45 would do this, 45 would do that. Well, let me tell you something. 45, the 4-time indicted president, yeah, man, he had something to do with this also. He had something to do with this also. All right, let me get this thing. September, what is today, the 18th? All right, bet. Okay, let me see. We got breaking news. 5 Americans. Yeah, this got to be the main one. All right. So it says we got 5 Americans released from Iran are en route to the United States of America. Now, before we go into this article, you know, CNN, they're gonna give us the whole spiel. Check this out. Where's that? Here we go. What up, JoJo Live? So for everyone that tells you that President Trump, he would have got Brittany Griner out, he would have got all these other Americans out. Watch this. AP report, Iran U.S. prisoner swamp appears in motion as once frozen Iranian released to Qatar. Now, hold on, where's it at? Now, they always tell you that President Trump, if something was going down, he was able to get prisoners out of there. They would be able to get swamps going. President Trump has not only lied to you all, but he doesn't do what he promises. Negotiations over a major prisoner swamp faltered after then President Donald Trump unilaterally withdrew America from the nuclear deal in 2018. From the following year on, a series of attacks and ship seizures attributed to Iran have raised tensions. So in 2018, President Trump, he was supposed to get these people out. But guess what? President Trump, just like many other things, he didn't do what he was supposed to do. Now, everyone tells you he would get Brittany Griner out of there. He would end the war in Ukraine. Man, Trump ain't did shit. Come on, man. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? I just had to throw that out there early. But all right, let's see what the hell they got going on. The latest on the 5 Americans freed from Iran. The 5 Americans released from Iranian detention en route to the United States after stopping in Doha, Qatar earlier Monday, according to U.S. officials. The individuals, all of whom have been designated as wrongfully detained, were freed as a part of a wider deal that includes the U.S. unfreezing $6 billion in Iranian funds. The release of the Americans brings to an end of a years-long nightmare for those who have been detained. 3 of those who are believed to be part of the deal, man, you know, I ain't about to tear their names up, have all been in prison for more than 5 years. Namazi have been detained since 2015. The identities of the other 2 are not publicly known. Now they're saying they've been in jail for 5 years. 5 years takes us back to 2018. 2018, President Trump was in office. President Trump was making promises, but President Trump withdrew from the nuclear deal in 2018, which left these people over there for 5 years. Now they told us that he would be able to get Brittany Griner back, but we seen that he didn't get Brittany Griner back. He didn't get the troops from Afghanistan. Joe Biden actually did everything that Trump said he could do. But Trump, who was in office, who had time to do it, did not do it because Trump had other things on his mind. But the U.S. imposed sanctions on Iran's Ministry of Intelligence and former Iranian President Mohammed Ahmadinejad. I can't pronounce that. In connection to the detention of Americans, the Treasury Department said. It says U.S. officials confirm the flight carrying 5 freed Americans en route to the United States. Now, I want to see what they actually got arrested for. The U.S. confirmed that the flights carrying 5 Americans and 2 family members had departed Doha en route to the United States. The flight is expected to land in Washington, D.C. area, and the freed Americans will be able to reunite with their loved ones after 5 years for some of them. They will all have the option to participate in the Department of Defense program known as PISA, post-isolation support activities to help them acclimatize back to the normal life, officials say. Acclimate back, but acclimatize. Iran's deputy foreign minister, we are extremely happy with the release of the 5 nationals. Now, Iran, of course, they're extremely happy with the release because they get $5 or $6 billion in assets unfrozen. Now, we don't know what these assets are at the moment. We're going to find out what the hell they are. We're extremely happy for the release of 5 Iranians who were imprisoned by the United States for alleged evading of unlawful and inhumane sanctions. So they released 5 Iranians who were imprisoned by the United States. We get 5 Americans back, but we also unfreeze 6 billion in assets. We congrats their return to the loved ones, the foreign minister of political affairs said on social media platform. Defending the rights of Iranians across the world, those who are unjustly deprived of liberty for the allegedly invading and unlawful anti-Iran sanctions is one permanent item that the agenda of Iran diplomacy, we wrote. He went on to thank Qatar and Oman. I flew into Oman for their important roles in facilitating the process that led the release of Iranian citizens. All right, more context. That's what we actually need. Exactly, Eric. So they get 5 Iranians back, and we unfreeze 6 billion in Iranian funds. What up, Tamika? I'm gonna see what all is tied up into this. Now I'm thinking it's probably gonna be like oil, uh, assets that got to do with oils. They probably lock down some facilities. We're gonna see. The 5, all of whom been designated as wrongfully detained, were freed as a part of a wider deal that includes unfreezing 6 billion in Iranian funds. We're gonna see what this deal is. It is never wrong to bring Americans home. Loved ones of Americans released on house arrest in Iran push back on criticism of prospective deal. Now, they were detained in Iran. Once they weren't released, but they were put on house arrest while they were in Iran. And then from Iran is when the prisoner negotiations started happening while they were on house arrest to bring them back. So that's just kind of because this is back in August when they were on house arrest. They just got released today. Let me see. The family members of 2 Americans who were released into house arrest in Iran last week as a part of the deal aimed at bringing them back home to the United States hit back at criticisms about the prospective agreement. First and foremost, we need to bring Americans home, and it is never wrong to bring an American home, Tara told CNN's Kate on CNN's News Central. Tabaz's father, Morad Tabaz, was one of the 5 wrongfully detained Americans transferred out of prison into house arrest as a first step in a tentative deal, which would make 6 billion in Iranian assets that had been in South Korea more accessible for the purchase of non-sanctionable goods. So the 6 billion in Iranian assets that have been in South Korea. Oh, so was it? Let me see. Hey man, CNN, get out of here. Oh, okay. So it turns out Iran has been suing South Korea to release a frozen asset. So the assets are in South Korea. South Korea has an alliance with the United States of America. Let's see something. Although billions of dollars in Iran's assets that have been blocked in South Korean banks under the U.S. sanctions for years have finally been unfrozen, the Iran government has decided to continue with legal proceedings to force Seoul, Korea, to compensate them for their losses. So, administration of U.S. President Joe Biden announced recently that it issued sanctions waiving for banks to transfer 6 billion of frozen Iranian funds from South Korea to Qatar, paving the way for the release of 5 Americans. Oh, so okay, okay. So it's not America that had to. All right, so this is a cool deal for America. This is a cool deal for America. We being honest, this is a W for America. This is a W because we're not the ones actually holding the funds. South Korean banks are holding the funds. Iran is suing South Korea to release it. Now, US told South Korea, hey, we're allies. We got sanctions on Iran for certain things. They were probably holding it until they got release of the people. So I give this as a W to America because it's not like we had the funds. It's not 6 billion of our dollars. So when people read the headlines, $6 billion of Iranian funds unfrozen, they're gonna think, oh, America didn't do anything. It was Iran's money, but it was in South Korean banks. We don't own the South Korean banks. We didn't hold the money. So this is a win for America. We got 5 citizens back. And South Korea had to give up the $6 billion. Well, they had to unfreeze it. It wasn't actually their money that they could spend. It was frozen $6 billion. So I look at it as, hey, that was a W. We didn't have to give up nothing. We just swapped out Iranian prisoners here for the American prisoners. So this is a W for America. All right, cool. All right, I thought it was something else. The decision came after Iranian administration in July opened up formal legal proceedings against South Korea, which had refused to pay off oil debts after all the diplomatic efforts. Okay, so that's what's going on here. All right. They've obtained information that although Iran's frozen assets in South Korea have been released and transferred to Qatar before being wired to the central bank of Iran, Tehran is trying to receive compensation from Seoul for the financial losses caused by blocking the funds for years. The losses resulting from South Korea's move to freeze 7 billion in Iranian assets for years total more than 700 million. Reports suggest that the government of Iran will press on with a complaint and fight for compensation. Oh man, so we were just the middleman. We just figured, hey, look, Iran, this is what we're gonna do. You got 5 Americans over there. We're gonna go holler at South Korea. We're gonna tell South Korea, hey man, come up off them funds, you know what I'm saying? Unfreeze the funds, but don't send it directly to Iran. So what they did was send it to the Bank of Qatar. Now, Qatar is one of the richest places in the world. So if they release it to Qatar, Qatar's being that middleman. We got to come to some common ground. Once the funds are released from South Korea to Qatar, Qatar will hold on to it until the prisoner swap goes down. Once the prisoner swap goes down, Qatar would then wire the $6 or $7 billion to Iran. Okay, so I see what they're doing here. Now we're following it. Qatar and the United States are the middlemen. Qatar is where the money's going to go. The U.S. is the negotiator with South Korea, like, hey, release those funds so we can get our Americans back. In return, what we're going to do, they're going to probably help South Korea out. We already are. We already got two major bases over in South Korea. We got multiple bases over there, but we got our two big bases, Osan and Kusan. Okay. Okay, I see what we're doing here. South Korea been holding on to that money for several years now. All right, I see what we're doing here. I thought it was us doing something with the 6 billion, but it's not. Let me see. The release represents a significant diplomatic breakthrough after years of complicated indirect negotiations between Washington and Tehran. The US and Iran do not have formal diplomatic ties. Relations further plummeted under the Trump administration when he withdrew from an Iran nuclear deal and pursued a maximum pressure approach to Tehran. The years since, efforts to constrain Iran's growing nuclear program have been unsuccessful. So, once again, everyone will let you believe that when Trump was in office, he was taking care of business. Trump was getting Americans back. No, Trump had his own idea. We also got the phone conversation between Trump and then Iranian president, where he was telling them, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. You give me information on Hunter Biden, we'll send you funds over there to help protect your borders. But all of this was going on while everyone was hyping up Trump, making us believe that Trump was the best thing that ever happened to the United States. In reality, we're looking at everything that Trump was doing while in office is coming back to be on Joe Biden's plate. And Joe Biden has to take care of all of the faults where Trump was in office. Okay. The United Nations hopes lessening of tensions between the US and Iran after prisoner release deal, the spokesperson says. So also Joe Biden was doing this. Hey, let's negotiate something. Let's try to get a deal on the table so we can work together. You want to start having these public relations with these other countries, especially ones that you haven't been seeing eye to eye with over years, because in the long run, you can help out. That's the whole reason all of the money is being sent to the Ukraine. Now, the Ukraine is not a part of the UN. You know what I'm saying? They are not part of NATO. They are not with the United Nations. So what we're doing is we're sending them money to protect their own border because it's cheaper to give them money to protect themselves than for us to insert American military members over there. The potential for death on top of the money is roughly about $60,000 a day for an American troop to go to war. So there's a lot of things being put in place, but they're actually making it work. Let's see. We very much hope that it leads to greater cooperation and lessening tensions between the UN Secretary General, said that at a regulatory press briefing. The release of the five Americans represents a significant breakthrough after years of complicated indirect negotiations. The United States, man, that's the same thing we just read. Let me see something. Here we go. Here's something on the people that were actually detained over there. South Korea being petty when they owe them money. Well, they froze the money, not to put all of this on South Korea, Eric. South Korea froze the money under US sanctions. So really it was, you know what I'm saying? This is what they would call the Tariq St. Patrick. Now, the United States didn't freeze those assets, but what they did was tell someone else, hey, South Korea, put those sanctions, you know what I'm saying? These US sanctions freeze that money. So is, hey, Iran, we're not the ones that froze it. Now we got some US sanctions, but South Korea was the one that actually froze the assets. You see what I'm saying? It's not a direct US did it, but it was direct that the US did it, if that makes sense. US sanctions, South Korea froze the bank, but South Korea is partnered with America. So they like, man, y'all bringing in money, tourism, everything. All right, bet we'll freeze the money. I know it's deeper than that though. South Korea, hey man, some of that oil money y'all probably need to freeze up. But uh Namazi, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Namazi, a 50-year-old, 51-year-old businessman, was the longest held detainee, having been arrested in 2015 and left behind by both the Obama and the Trump administrations in past prisoner swamps. Now, Obama was only in there to 16, so about a year and a half he was in office. Trump had 4 whole years in there and didn't do anything. Shargi, a businessman and Washington, D.C. resident, and Tobias, a UK US resident or US national and environmentalist. Who the hell is it? A US national and environmentalist were both detained in 2018. Now, this is on Trump's watch. Also, the flight where Nazemi's mother, Effie, ain't that crazy, and Tobias's wife, Vida, both of whom had previously been unable to leave Iran, according to senior administrative officials. Shargi's sister said the family received video calls from him upon his arrival in Doha, in which he was beaming and incredibly grateful. Jared Gisner, the Nazima family pro bono counsel, told CBS the family was flooded with emotions. While Namaziz, I can't pronounce their names, I ain't gonna lie. A long and unimaginable nightmare has come to an end and is also beginning a very long road to recovery and healing. Upon return to the U.S., the Americans will be given the option of going through support process at a military hospital in Virginia to prepare for their re-entry following captivity. Because the U.S. has not had any official ties with Iran since '79, the Americans were escorted to a Qatari plane by Swiss ambassador to Tehran, Nadine Oliver. She had helped monitor the Americans' well-being since they were moved from Ivan prison to house arrest. Let's see what this prison is. EVIN prison. Right. What up, Kendall? What up, Kendall? We just looking at the prison now where they were at before they got released. Oh, this is a detention center? So, all right. So it says Even prison, located in the hills of northern Tehran, was built in '71. It grew to international prominence when, during the late period of Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi's rule, thousands of political prisoners were held in horrifying conditions, tortured, executed under the control of Shah's secret police, the Savik. All right, we need to see what the hell the Savik were doing. After the 1979 revolution, the government rounded up those associated with the monarchy and detained them in the facility. So anybody that was up under his control in '79, the revolution started 8 years later. Anyone that was involved with him or the monarchy, basically anyone that was up under him working directly for him, they detained them and threw them in the facility. And in the years that followed, those who had supported the revolution were later seen as a threat to the new Islamic Republic were taken to Even. Perhaps the darkest period of Eva's history came in the late summer of 1988, when untold thousands of political prisoners were executed after the trials. Oh, so that's where they had the prisoners. All right, let me see something. So this was a torture camp back in the day. They were moved from the Ivan prison to house arrest in August following the Biden administration's agreement in principle to the swap. Ahead of the swap, uh, senior administrative officials did not share details about the health condition of the Americans, but noted the Swiss have said the Iranians complied with the agreed upon living conditions for the house arrest. They acted as the Biden administration's eyes and ears on the ground, confirming to State Department officials that the Americans were on board the flight. So we don't have the last two people's name, but we have them. All right. Switzerland and Qatar have acted as the go between for the U.S. and Iran since the minimum diplomatic contact between the two nations established as a part of the 2015 landmark nuclear accord known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action was served when the Trump administration exited the agreement in 2018. So once Trump exited the agreement in 2018, One of these I think it's this gentleman here. No, it's this one right here. Emad. He's been over there since 2000. He's been over there for 5 years. So once Trump backed out the deal, they were still in there in jail. But once Biden got in office, he tried to open up communication with Iran. He even reached out to Korea, told them, "Hey, release the funds. Let us bring back our 5 Americans." Now, despite a campaign pledge to revive the accord, Biden administration attempts have failed. Iran's nuclear development has continued. So basically, they want them, hey, stop making nuclear weapons or let us come over there and do an inspection. Now, if you remember back with the Bush administration, they thought that there was WMD, weapons of mass destructions, over in Iran and Afghanistan, Iraq. So they went over there and did that, but they never actually discovered anything. So there was a lot of that going on behind the scenes. But right now, whenever someone's developing nuclear weapons, America, of course, they want to be involved with that. They want to have regulations on it, which is good because a lot of countries can't be trusted. Can we be trusted? Yeah, but we one of the most powerful. So it's like there's really no control over us. We do what we need to do. But that's a whole nother topic right there. That I can go all day about that. You know what I mean? I know a little bit about the WMDs, you know what I mean? Pause all of that. But distrust between Washington and Tehran, even amid the swap, is high. The Biden administration agreed to help Iran gain access to 6 billion in Iranian oil assets, which are held in the South Korean bank. That have been held in restricted accounts in the South Korean as an incentive for Tehran to conduct the swap. See, America says South Korea hold that money. They don't want to get into negotiations. Y'all hold that money under U.S. sanctions. And if they want to get their money back, they're going to have to swap it out. 5 for 5. We swap it out. South Korea give up the money. So all the money was held in a restricted account in South Korea as an incentive for Tehran to conduct the swap. Sources familiar with the complex diplomatic deal told CBS News that the billions in oil revenue were being transferred through European banks in the form of euros to a restricted account in Qatar as late as Sunday. So it's not bad money. The money that they were making off of oil, all of that was going through South Korea, was just sitting in those accounts. Well, South Korea locked it up. Qatar, we're going to send that to you if the swap goes down. We hope to see the complete repossession of assets by the Islamic Republic of Iran today, and that it will all be transferred to Iran's account in a friendly country in the region. Iranian Foreign Ministry spoke Nasir Kanani announced on Monday the government of Iran should have complete access to it, according to its need. The plan was to have the U.S. Treasury block Tehran from accessing the funds until Americans departed Iranian airspace. The Biden administration has repeatedly said the U.S. Treasury will continue to monitor the account in Qatar and restrict the use of funds for solely humanitarian purposes. So the U.S. Treasury, they're watching Qatar and they're making sure that Qatar isn't doing any shady deals. Now, you got to remember there's a lot of moving parts in this. So the U.S. Treasury, of course, then you got um, the International Monetary Fund, which is really over like all of the banks. They oversee everything. So that's the IMF. What the U.S. Treasury is doing is, if Qatar released that money before they left the airspace, they would take this basically as a sign of disrespect. And then at that moment, they would start putting sanctions probably on the Qatar Bank, Qatar Airways. They would start putting sanctions on everybody. And that's why Qatar is going to go ahead and allow this to go down. Like, hey, we'll wait. We'll follow all the rules. So it's a lot that goes on that people probably wouldn't know behind the scenes. But I'm glad we're looking into this. So you can actually see how the money moves. It's a lot. Let me see. The Biden administration briefed Congress in advance of the trade, but Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman Mark Warner, Democrat of Virginia, indicated the information offered to his staff was not sufficient for him to defend the administration's deal. Now, of course, there's going to be little things behind the side. Obviously, money is fungible. Warner told the Face of the Nation administration have said that there are guardrails. I want to get a better description of those guardrails. The Republican chair of the House Intelligence Committee, Rep. Mike Turner of Ohio, is concerned that any financial relief will incentivize further hostage taking. Well, I mean, it was a swap for us. It was a swap for us. And the thing is, I understand what Mike Turner is saying, but the 6 billion wasn't ours. It was actually their money that they had legally. It was just frozen in order for them to come to the table to make deals. So I don't know if it would incentivize further hostage taking, but it goes both ways. Yeah, they figure they can get hostage, you know what I'm saying? They can get money for hostages and holding ransoms. But also, the United States could also, at any moment, put US sanctions on certain banks and money and hold up money in order for them to get prisoners back. So it goes both ways. Now, I know we on the American side, and of course, we worried about America, you know what I'm saying? America first. But you got to look at it from the broad spectrum of like, hey, both sides are using this to their advantage. The US, they didn't freeze the money. They told South Korea to do it. But in order for South Korea to do that, they got to talk to Iran. Now Iran has to come to the table and at least exchange for some prisoners. So it works both ways. It's just a lot. So I mean, I understand what the American, saying the House Intelligence Committee is trying to do here and what they're saying, because I agree with them. I'm just saying, to not be biased to one side, it works out for both parties. Well, all parties actually. Whenever you put a price on American heads, you get an incentive for people to take more hostages. He dismissed the Biden administration's argument that the funds would be restricted. Senior administrative officials reiterated Sunday night that the funds are severely restricted and being funneled through trusted banks with the full cooperation of the Qatari government. This is not a payment of any kind, the senior administration said. That's exactly what I'm saying. We're not paying them back. This is their money. We're releasing their money back to them. It was just held up for us to be able to get the prisoner swamp going. The money which was paid by South Korea to Iran years ago for oil and subsequently frozen is only to be used for humanitarian purposes and is limited to food, medicine, medical devices, and agricultural products, a senior administrative official said. They stressed that it is not the U.S. taxpayer money and no funds will go directly to Iranian companies or entities. If Iran tries to divert the money, the U.S. will take action to lock up the funds, the official said. That's everything that I was saying. So it's not our money and it's not going to be any tax dollars. But you already know, if we go on Twitter, I guarantee it's going to see a lot of people saying, "Hey man, they're using our money, man, $6 billion." But it's not our money. It was Iran's money. It was just in the bank of South Korea that's been frozen for years. Let me see. Let me see something. All right. What y'all think? What y'all think for America? 5 for 5. That was a good exchange because it's not our money. Y'all thinking the 5 for 5? That was a good exchange. In my book, that's good. We ain't do nothing. We monitoring the banks. The money is coming from South Korea. Basically, we got 5 people for 5 people. We got our people back. That's what I'm looking at it as. This is what I'm looking at it as. Hold on, let me show y'all something. Look at this. Trump blasts Biden Iran deal that made available $6 billion for Iran. Trump said, "I brought 58 hostages home from many different countries, including North Korea, and I never paid anything. They all understood that they must let these people come home. Toward the end, it got so that the countries didn't even start the conversation asking for money because they knew they would not get it. Once you pay, you will always pay. Many more hostages will be taken. Our grossly incompetent leader, crooked Joe Biden, gave $6 billion for 5 people. Iran gave zero for 5. He's dumb as a rock. Now, this is, of course, propaganda from 45. Well, we just found out that we didn't pay Iran $1. We got these 5 home for free. These 5 were in prison while Trump was in office. You see, he didn't mention that him pulling out of the Iran deal in 2018, these people were over there. You see what I'm saying? He didn't mention that they were in jail, they were in prison while he was in office. And now he's telling all of his goonies and lackeys that we gave up $6 billion. In reality, we gave up zero. We got 5 hostages, 5 American citizens in exchange for 5 Iranian citizens. Now, that money that South Korea gave up, that was their money already. That was legal money. It was just frozen in the banks. You see what I'm saying? They're not going to give you the whole truth. They're only going to give you the information that they want to give you. Listen, this is absolutely ridiculous. $6 billion hostage deal with Iran has set a terrible precedent for the future. Buckle up. You're going to see more terrible things start to happen. The 3 years highly respected USA became a laughing stock all over the world. Make America great again. Well, you about to go to jail. We not voting for you. We already seen that you were allegedly scamming people on your damn presidential fund the day of the mugshot. Damn. That's how they get you, y'all. That's how they get you. So 11:45 this morning, Trump said all of this, even though we know that we didn't give up anything in exchange for him. Let me see. I don't even remember where we were at. Oh, here we go. In addition to those billions, Mr. Biden agreed to grant clemency to 5 Iranians who were facing charges in the U.S. Iran identified its citizens as, I ain't tearing up their names, indicted in 2011 and convicted in 2021 for violating economic sanctions with Iran. Michigan residents, Amin, accused of stealing confidential documents from his employer. Kabiz, a dual U.S. Iran citizen who was convicted of conspiring to illegally export goods and technology to Iran. Canadian resident Reza, who is accused of illegally exporting laboratory equipment through Canada and the United Arabs, UAE. And Kaveh, a scholar and U.S. permanent resident living in Massachusetts, who was charged with acting as an unregistered agent of the Iranian government. Oh, so they were arrested for some legit, you know what I mean? They were arrested for some legit stuff. They were arrested for some legit stuff. The U.S. has not confirmed the identities of the Iranians being released, but administrative officials noted that they were all accused of nonviolent crimes. Official also said the prison sentence of 2 Iranians who had been convicted were almost over. So they're probably just going to deport them anyway. They told CBS that they would not return to Tehran, but would instead remain in the U.S. Administration officials said that they anticipate 2 of the Iranians who don't have legal status in the U.S. to return to Iran through Doha. Senior administrative officials said the deal does not change our relationship with Iran in any way. Iran is an adversary and a state sponsor of terrorism. We will hold them accountable whatsoever and wherever possible. Oh man, so all right. So it sounds like they doing everything. Like, hey, we swapped these out 5 for 5, but we still ain't rocking with y'all like that. We didn't give up any money, so whatever Trump is talking about here, he's lying. Wasn't a $6 billion hostage deal. It was money frozen in the South Korean bank, which Iran was already suing for to get that money out and for compensation of roughly $700 million. So everything that Trump says here is a lie. The US is a laughing stock because our 45th president is indicted on 4 different criminal charges in 4 different areas. He's also facing conspiracy to commit treason against the United States of America. He also has defamation cases he's losing in the civil battle. He's also responsible, allegedly, for leading an insurrection on the Capitol. But hey, what do we know about being a laughing stock? The Biden administration announced new sanctions Monday against Iran's Ministry of Intelligence and former president. Let me see. Biden administration, Iran's ministry. Let's see what these sanctions are, what they can and can't do. Here we go. An hour ago. Shit, they ain't talking about that. I'm gonna find that shit in a minute. Give me a second. But the swamp ends prolonged trauma for families that are formerly detained Americans, also likely to reignite the political debate over whether the previously announced trade benefits the heavily sanctioned Iranian regime and in turn incentivizes further hostage taking. The senior administrative official said Sunday night, we obviously are not at all confident about the practice of taking hostages well in and warned Americans that traveling to Iran is extremely high risk endeavor. Well, I mean, if you ain't from Iran, there's no reason for you to be going over to Iran, in my personal opinion. But hey, do what you got to do. Right? Do what you got to do. Let me see something. Hold on. Let me see something. Hold on. Woofius over on Rumble said, I thought we weren't negotiating with terrorists. We did negotiate. We negotiated 5 prisoners for 5 prisoners. That was it. That was all on our end. South Korea released the money. US did not have the money. That's not our money. We didn't release it. We didn't pay to get 5 people back. South Korea released Iranian funds to get the 5 people back. America did not do it. All right. America did not release $6 billion to Iran for 5 American citizens. We released 5 Iranians for 5 Americans. The same thing Trump said he did. The 58 that he released some prisoners to get those 58 back. Now, not for each and every one, but that's what he did. You're not just releasing prisoners for nothing. So it's not negotiating. It's us coming to the table. Y'all get y'all 5, we get our 5. South Korea would do what South Korea do. We didn't have anything to do with the money. Mr. President, to tell him my 8-year captivity is ultimately a stark reminder that once our citizens are seized by a rogue state, we are left with no good options. Namazi said, it's only if the free world finally agrees to collectively impose draconian consequences on those who use human lives as mere bargaining chips that the Iranian regime, and it's still it, will be compelled to make different choices. So the Iranian president is scheduled to arrive in New York this week to address the UN General Assembly, which Mr. Biden is also scheduled to attend. So they're going to meet up for the first time, I guess. Damn. Yeah, as far as America, it was R5 for your five. South Korea releases the $6 billion. Now, Iran has already been suing for that.
We have breaking news. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is speaking now about the 5 Americans freed from Iran. Let's listen.
Back to the United States to be reunited with their loved ones. 5 of the 7, of course, had been unjustly detained, imprisoned in Iran, some for years. 2 others had been prevented from leaving Iran. I spoke to them after they landed in Doha. I can tell you that it was, for them, for me, an emotional conversation. It's easy in the work that we do every day sometimes to get lost in the abstractions of foreign policy and relations with other countries, and forgetting the human element that's at the heart of everything we do. But today, their freedom, the freedom of these Americans for so long unjustly imprisoned and detained in Iran, means some pretty basic things. It means that husbands and wives, fathers and children, grandparents can hug each other again, can see each other again, can be with each other again. So it's a day that I'm grateful for. I want to thank a number of partners who've been so vital to helping us reach this day, particularly our partners in Oman, Switzerland, Qatar, the United Kingdom. Each has played a very important role in enabling us to free our fellow citizens. I'd also like to thank an extraordinary team at the State Department and throughout the United States government that has been working to achieve this result for years now. As happy as we are at the freedom of our fellow citizens, we also are thinking today of Bob Levinson, who is not among them and who is presumed deceased. Bob's legacy, however, lives on. It lives on powerfully in the Levinson Act, which has given us new and important tools to help crack down on and deter the practice of taking Americans unlawfully, to try to turn them into political pawns, and to abuse the international system in that way. One of the things that I heard in my conversation with our fellow citizens who are now free is their own determination, their own commitment, their own conviction to continuing this work, to making sure that other Americans who are unjustly detained anywhere in the world come home. To date, under this administration, we have now brought 30 Americans home from places around the world where they were being unjustly detained. That work will continue. At the same time, we're going to be working every single day to take steps to make this practice more and more difficult, and more of a burden on those countries that engage in it.
Ken, I think the other 2 weren't released because it was just 5 for 5. You know what I mean? I think it had to be an even exchange. Iran was probably like, man, if y'all only releasing 5, we're probably only gonna release 5. You know what I mean? It probably got to be something to do with that. Or they have some other kind of charges that we aren't aware of yet. Because they haven't released the other two members' names. They haven't released them. So we don't know what they were actually charged for. They might actually be charged for something a little more serious. I mean, we're gonna hope we'll try to find out, but they're not releasing any information on them yet.
And you'll see in the days ahead here in New York at the United Nations our efforts to work with other countries to do just that. But for today, for this moment, it's very good to be able to say that our fellow citizens are free after enduring something that I think it would be difficult for any of us to imagine, that their families will soon have them back among them, and that in this moment, at least, I have something very joyful to report. Finally, let me say that throughout this effort, throughout the work we've done to bring, focused on working independently to bring these Americans home. So it doesn't speak to anything else in the relationship. We continue to be determined to take whatever step is necessary to deal with actions by Iran in a whole host of areas that are profoundly objectionable and that many other countries find objectionable. At the same time, when it comes to perhaps the number one issue of concern, which is Iran's nuclear program, we continue to believe that diplomacy is the best way to get a sustainable, effective result, one that we had previously with the Iran nuclear agreement. And we'll continue to see if there are opportunities for that. In this moment, we're not engaged on that.
All right, he ain't talking about nothing. Hold on. I still want to look up this prison that they were in, see if we can get any footage of it. So they were in here up until August when they got put on house arrest. So it's saying that the prison caught on fire. Ivan on fire, what really happened inside Iran's most notorious prison. So when we're talking about them going through some things, they were over here doing this. This is just October last year. They were put on house arrest in August of this year. A video captures Iran's notorious Ivan prison on fire with smoke rising from the night of October 15th. For more than 40 years, Ivan prison in Tehran has been the most visible symbol of Islamic Republic's authoritarian rule and menacing complex built on fear and absolute control. Unrest rarely breaches the prison walls. But the night of October 15th, massive fires tore through Ivan, killing at least 8 people and injuring 61, according to the state media. Families of prisoners fear the true toll is much higher. Will the 5 hostages, once returned U.S., immediately be reunited with their families? So the families actually came. They were there at the airport when they landed. Their family was out there. Let me see. Yeah, so once they get here, their family were all outside. Well, this is in Qatar. Qatar. But once they landed, so they landed in Doha. I don't know if have they landed in America yet. I think once they flew there, and from there they were escorted by the Swiss, because the Swiss, you know, saying they're playing a liaison. They escorted them to the plane to make sure everything goes good, and from Qatar to Washington D.C. But they said once they land, they will be provided the proper help, basically for any PTSD, and I'm sure they're definitely going to have they're going to have debriefings, and they're going to tell anything that they can, but because of course the CIA, they're going to probably try to ask them to see, did they see anything, did they notice anything. Yeah, they're going to actually, they're going to get a lot of information from them. They need information. Do they know the other two? Did they see the other two in the prison? And they're saying that 8 people died and 61 were injured, but the families of the prisoners fear that the true toll is much higher. The disaster coincided with the demonstrations that have swept across Iran over the past month and brutal crackdown by the country's security forces, who have killed dozens of protesters and arrested thousands more. Some of these detained have been taken to Ivan, where rights groups have documented a long history of torture and other abuses. Extraordinary videos from the night of the fire shows people shouting, "Death to the dictator" and "Death to Khamenei," a reference to Iran's supreme leader. You already know I'm not even about to try to do that. We just go say Ali. and a rallying cry of demonstrators as shots are fired and flames rise above the prison. So the prison was on fire and people were shooting? Was it the prison shooting or was it the people outside of the prison shooting in the air? Oh, Eric, I don't even know. We about to find out if they even have any. I don't even know if they released any information about that. But to understand what happened that night, the Washington Post analyzed dozens of photos and videos, spoke to activists, lawyers, former prisoners, and families of current prisoners, and consulted with experts in arson, weapons, and audio forensics. The findings are damning. At least one fire that night appears to have been started intentionally at a time when prisoners are locked in their cells. The most deadly fire erupted near the scene of the arson. As prisoners tried to flee as prisoners tried to flee the fire, guards and other security forces assaulted them with batons, live ammunition, metal pellets, and explosives. So the fire was going on while they were locked in their cells. So everybody's on lockdown at this point. Then the most deadly fire erupted near the scene of the arson. So where the fire started, the prisoners were trying to flee the fire, but the guards were shooting them. They were hitting them with batons. Damn. Sheesh. Ain't that something? The unrest started Saturday about 8:45 p.m., according to a video posted by Mazan, the news site of Iran's judiciary. The video claims that a fight broke out in Ward 7 and that prisoners then set a fire to a nearby textiles workshop. So there was a fight in Ward 7. The prisoners set a fire in the textiles workshop. Satellite imagery analyzed by the Post does indeed show intensive damage to the roof of the two-story building in the center of the prison that houses the textiles workshop, as well as a religious hall called, I can't pronounce that, on the level below. So it was a fight in the prison. They started the fire. The fire got out of hand. They tried to evade the fire just to run into the prison guards to get beat by batons and potentially shot. A view of the aftermath of the fire in the Tehran on October 17th. So it collapsed the roof in. Everything is burnt up, and it says that was not the only fire in the prison that night. However, it was probably not the first. So there were multiple fires, and this big fire in the textile workshop they say it probably wasn't the first fire. Before any flames were visible from the outside of the textiles workshop, video shows at least 3 individuals throwing flammable liquid onto a fire on top of an adjacent building in Ward 7. According to Philip Fotis, a certified fire investigator, the fire on the roof probably didn't catch, he said, because of the lack of combustible material. Satellite imagery taken in the aftermath shows only minimum damage. So here go the 3 people over here. 2 right here, and then Man, imagine if you were detained over there and they started this fire. You just trying to go back to America. You don't have nothing to do with nothing here. You're not a prisoner. They just holding you. But they got you in this prison. And they start this fire and you trying to get out of there and they whooping your ass and shoot. Hey, bro. Damn. Man, you just in the cell. You in lockdown. They said this is lockdown. 8:45 p.m. It's 3 people throwing Molotovs on the damn roof. The fire break out. Now y'all got to try to run and figure out how to get out of here. Remember, you just been detained. One guy's been over here for 5 years. Remember, he didn't go on house arrest till August of 2023. This is October. So this is the living conditions that they were in while they were over there being detained. Man, let's continue. We definitely would have never known anything about this if we didn't cover this article. But this shows you what they were going through, what they were suffering while they were there. And guess what? Donald Trump said he released 58 people. Well, one of these guys been over here for 5 years and he had to live through all of this. Why didn't Trump get him out? You know what I mean? Trump on Twitter or on Truth Social talking about we gave up $6 billion, but he's been in prison for 5 years. So something ain't adding up, Donald. Something ain't adding up, Donald. You bragging about saving 58 people, but we know that we had U.S. members, citizens here in this prison. You didn't do anything because you backed out that deal in 2018 because it didn't go the way you wanted to. So don't let them fool you with all that propaganda. Yet visuals show another fire blazing high into the air inside the grounds of Ward 7, close to where the arsonist had previously fed the flames on the rooftop. The second fire appeared to originate by the entrance of Ward 7 near a guard station. According to a former inmate who spent several years inside of Evan, he spoke to the Post on the condition of it, but he was fearing backlash from the government. The Post cannot confirm how the fire inside Ward 7 started, but its proximity to the intentional fire is telling. And it is in the fire inside Ward 7, which the government later blamed on prisoners without providing evidence. So they're saying that it was prisoners that did it, but they never gave evidence saying that it was actually the prisoners that did it. So even though we saying that the prisoners did it up here, it just says 3 individuals captured. It's not saying that it was actually the prisoners. They're just saying that the prisoners did start one fire. Okay. They blamed it on prisoners without providing evidence. That offered a pretext for the chaotic and deadly crackdown on inmates that followed. The gates to the wards were locked at 5 p.m. each night after roll call, according to former prisoner. Families of current prisoners say their movements have been further restricted since the protests broke out last month. This makes it unlikely that the inmates could have accessed any of the 3 areas where the fires broke out. Now, what they're saying is from people that were actually in there, the lockdown happened. They get locked down at 5 p.m. after roll call. So after that, there's no leaving your cells. So how could they get out of their cells and start these fires in these different locations? You see what I'm saying? And all of this came from after the protest. The protest happened. The lockdown was, they started the lockdown. Initiate the lockdown because of the protest. Now, they were probably upset with the prisoners and they actually started the fire. Now, I don't know what happened here. All of this is alleged, but they're trying to put it on the prisoners, but there's no evidence that the prisoners actually started because the prisoners were locked down at 5 p.m. But 4 hours later, 3 hours later, 8:45 p.m. is when the fire started. But we see people throwing fire onto the roof. But how could the prisoners get to the roof if they're locked down at 5 p.m. and this happens at 8:45 p.m.? Damn. Amnesty International has reported that the sounds of gunshots and screaming in Ward 7 could be heard by prisoners in neighboring wards as early as 8 p.m. Well, before the first flames were visible, and that authorities sought to justify their bloody crackdown on prisoners under the guise of battling the fire. So they're saying they locked them down because of the fire. Now, they're on lockdown at 5 p.m. Neighboring prisoners said they heard gunshots as early as 8 p.m., but this fire up here didn't start till 8:45 p.m. The unrest started Saturday around 8:45 p.m. That's when the fire started, but they're telling us they heard gunshots 45 minutes prior to the fires getting started. Well before the first flames were visible, and that authorities sought to justify their bloody crackdown of the prisoners under the guise of battling the fire. But the lockdown was already happening at 5 p.m. Gunshots going off at 8. The fire didn't start till 45 minutes after the gunshots. So they were probably shooting prisoners or shooting at the prisoners, and the prisoners, they were trying to get out of this, so they started the fires, but they're trying to say that they were covering up. Oh. Iranian state television later said that security forces were responding to a premeditated escape plan by the prisoners. So they're justifying shooting 45 minutes prior to the fire by saying it was a premeditated escape planned by the prisoners. This is a strange incident that happened at the time that the prisoners should be sleeping. A lawyer who said several clients, and Ivan speaking to the Post, what up? Uh, Ivan speaking to the Post by the phone from Tehran. This was a big event. Ward 7 houses thieves and financial criminals, according to the government. Though the former inmate told the Post that more violent criminals were also held there. Just importantly, it borders Ward 8, where the political prisoners are held and where the smoke from the fire eventually spread it. So the Americans that were in this prison, they were in Ward 8. So the smoke came over to their building while they're hearing gunshots going off. Man, what? You're just a political prisoner. I'm an American detained in Iran. They put you in this prison. You're hearing gunshots going off. You're hearing that there's fire, and now all the smoke from Ward 7 is going into Ward 8. And you don't have anywhere to go because lockdown happened at 5 p.m. So this is Ward 7. Damn. This is Ward 7 where the fire is. The workshop fire is over here where we seen the roof cave in. The actual arson started here. And Ward 8 is right here. So the wind was blowing this way and bringing all of the smoke into Ward 8. Damn. It's noxious. Smoke poured from Ward 7 into Ward 8. Labor rights activists began to cough and gag, he told his family. So he's the labor right activist. I guess he's at the prison. He began to cough and gag, he told his family. Oh, so he was a prisoner. Oh, he was a labor rights activist that was locked. Oh, Jahari 30 said he and the rest of the prisoners in Ward 8 faced a stark choice: smash through the gates or suffocate. As they burst through the locked doors and spilled into the prison yard, they were met by enraged guards who brutalized them with batons, bullets, and tear gas, according to family members who spoke on the condition for fear of repercussions from the authorities. So the authority, damn, I'm not going to. So the fire started at 8:45. Shooting ensued at 8 o'clock. The prisoners in Ward 8, there was too much smoke in their building and they didn't want to die. So they tried to escape out to the prison yard. but the prison guards got to shooting and beating them because they thought that they were trying to escape, which is authorizing them to use lethal force. Sheesh. Man, that's a lot. Iran confirms leaked footage of harsh conditions in Ivan prison. Videos show beatings, neglect, and an unbearably small solitary cell in Tehran's notorious Ivan prison. Hey, look at her right here. She said, "Y'all taking pictures?" This is 2021. I thought they was gonna have a picture of the jail cell. Damn, I don't remember hearing nothing from this. Iran releases security footage from prison, raising more questions. Blah, 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 blah. The CCTV footage of the mayhem last week. Let me see. So this is the workshop. Reward 50 kickbacks. I thought they was gonna show the security footage, man. Come on, PBS. What we on? Oh, here we go.
For a month now, people in Iran have been protesting against the regime after a young woman died in police custody. Over the weekend, a large fire erupted inside a prison facility in Tehran known for jailing political prisoners. At least 8 people are believed to be dead. Amna Nawaz has more.
The protest movement sweeping Iran after the death of Mahsa Amini spread to the notorious Evin prison in Tehran. On Saturday, videos spread on social media of the prison ablaze, flames and smoke rising from parts of the compound. Gunshots can be heard in some clips. Tehran's governor later blamed a prisoner riot. Activists said prisoners were chanting anti-regime slogans and guards launched a crackdown. Later that evening, protesters outside were seen marching to the prison, chanting "Death to the Dictator." American citizen Ahmad Shargi is currently detained inside Evin prison. His sister Neda Shargi, who's been campaigning for his release, joins us tonight. Neda, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to ask you about your brother's detention. He's been held there for 4 years now in a moment, but I want to begin with this weekend. As the fires were burning, as the riots were unfolding, your brother was inside and he called you. What did he tell you? What did you hear?
I was actually in DC at an event for hostages who had come home. So I thought he was calling at that time to see how the event went. But when he called, it was...
Her brother was one that was released today. Her brother is one of the people that were released.
Quite loud in the background. And Ahmad just said, you know, "Hi, I want you to know that I'm okay." And I said, "What's going on with all the noises in the background?" And he said, "It's just very chaotic here." And that's all he said. His voice was incredibly, heavy. And he said, "We're just staying in our room." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Tell everyone I love them. And I hope to talk to you soon." But it really wasn't what Ahmad said. It was more what I could hear in the background. It sounded like he was in the middle of a riot. I could hear people shouting. and I could hear what I now know are gunshots, because I only found out later that there had been riots in that part of the prison where he is.
What was it like for you in that moment when you're seeing these videos, the fires burning, hearing the gunshots, knowing your brother's inside?
You know, I try to be a very optimistic person, but I thought to myself that could be the last time I hear from him. I imagined him, you know, in a smoke-filled room, unable to get out. All the worst possible thoughts came to my head, and then I had the responsibility of knowing that I was the last person who spoke to him. So it was terrifying.
Your brother has been there since 2018, wrongfully detained. He is an American citizen. He was convicted in a sham trial on some national security charges. What can you tell us about the negotiations to bring him back home? What do U.S. officials tell you?
I thought Trump said he brought home 58 Americans when he was in office. Why has this man been locked up for 5 years, Donald?
We just hear that they're trying to do their best to get them out, but Emad should have been out last year. Emad should have been out 6 months ago. Emad should have been out 3 months ago, and he's still there. I think what we learned this weekend is that time is an illusion. At any moment, something could happen to him, and he could die.
He did survive, we should say. You were able to confirm he is okay, but what can you tell us about how he is doing?
He called finally yesterday morning, and it was a minute-long call. He just said, "I'm alive, and I'm fine, don't worry." I didn't ask him anything, and he didn't offer any more details. You know, the calls are usually short and monitored. His voice was hoarse, and he was coughing, and I am putting 2 and 2 together, thinking that he's probably inhaled a lot of the smoke from the fires, because the fires are near the ward where he is kept. And he said that they moved him late at night to Section 2A of Evin prison, away from the fire.
Have you or anyone in your family been able to meet with President Biden or speak to him directly about this? We have seen the Biden administration have some success bringing home Americans who are wrongfully detained, most recently from Venezuela, but also Bakr Namazi was released from medical treatment from Iran.
Yes.
Have you spoken with them directly?
I have not spoken. We have not spoken to President Biden. We have made several requests to speak with him, because I think it's important to talk about the case and what we understand and our frustrations and the need for urgency. I think it's very important for the president to know. We keep requesting, and we hope to hear from him and have the opportunity to meet with him.
Do you believe they're doing everything they can to bring him home?
I believe they don't quite understand when we say to them, you need to do this quickly. I believe they think that time is on our side and that they can just wait. So I don't believe they understand how urgent it is to get them home.
This moment in time in Iran, we're seeing historic protests across the country, right? You're also, the nuclear talks are playing out between Iran and the US. Are you worried all of this impacts your brother's future?
Of course I am. It's hard enough to get attention for this humanitarian issue around our innocent American hostages, and it's even tougher now to get our voices heard and to urge action on this very quickly.
Neda Shargi, sister of wrongfully detained American citizen Emad Shargi, who's held in Iran. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's the sister of one of the gentlemen that were released. He was actually over there during the prison fire. I ain't even know nothing about this. Damn. Yeah, well. What up, Nikema? Yeah, well, we got the 5 Americans back, and regardless of what Trump is talking about, we didn't spend $6 billion to get them. South Korea released Iran's own money back to them that they've had frozen for a while. I mean, they're home now, I guess. Let me see if there's any update on it. So this one right here, the gentleman in the middle, that's the one, that was his sister that was just talking. So his sister was talking. He was in the prison during it. So Shargi was first arrested in 2018 while working for a technology investment company. He spent 8 months in jail and was released on bail, but had a travel ban. In November 2020, he was sentenced to 10 years in jail by the Revolutionary Court for espionage charges. 2018. Who was in office in 2018? Who was in office in 2018? Damn. So Tobias, they said he had the C-19 3 times while he was in jail. Her father had cancer and had gone through several medical conditions while he was incarcerated, including having the C-19 3 times. Damn. Bravo said Trump. Yeah. So in 2018, he was in office. He didn't go over there and get the Americans out of here, but he telling us that he was just the best thing that ever happened. Interesting. Yeah, it's probably my last video, and then we're gonna get out of here, man. We done pretty much covered everything. I don't think they have any new news on here.
In Iran are expected to be freed this morning as part of a prisoner swap worked out by the Biden administration.
So here is what we know about their movements today. A source tells CBS News that the prisoners arrived at the airport in Tehran this morning, and multiple sources tell CBS News that all 5 prisoners and 2 family members are on the flight. Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent Margaret Brennan is following this story.
Iran announced Monday that 5 detained Americans are expected to be released today. They include Imad Shargi, Siamak Namazi, Murad Tabaz, and 2 Americans whose names are being withheld. For the first time since 2015, 51-year-old Siamak Namazi would be free. He spent the past 8 years in the notorious Evin prison in Iran on what the U.S. State Department considers trumped-up charges of espionage. Shargi and Tabaz were arrested in 2018. All are considered wrongfully detained. In exchange, Iran says charges against 5 Iranians in the U.S. will be dropped. 2 will remain in the U.S. The Biden administration reached a tentative deal in August, but the final pieces only came together in recent days. The money traveled from South Korea to Switzerland and then into a monitored bank account in Qatar, a deal the White House has repeatedly defended.
This is not a payment of any kind. It's not
to Switzerland and then into a monitored bank account.
Again, just so we understand, this is not American tax dollars. That is not American money. It is Iran's money that's been in South Korea that's been frozen. They sent the money to Switzerland. Switzerland, we don't know if they took a little cut off the top, but they sent it over to Switzerland, and then they sent it to Qatar. And Qatar is going to hold it until the Americans leave Iranian airspace. Then they'll put the money over into Iran. The U.S. Treasury is going to be monitoring Qatar to make sure that they don't release the money prior to the American citizens being out of the territory. And the reason they do that is because if they haven't left yet, if they get the money, they can turn the plane around and divert it back to Iran, have the money and still have the prisoners and start demanding more. But again, the United States isn't giving up any money. South Korea is releasing funds from Iranian oil funds that are in their banks. You see what I'm saying? So everything that Trump is talking about is a lie.
Count in Qatar, a deal the White House has repeatedly defended.
This is not a payment of any kind. It's not ransom. These aren't U.S. taxpayer dollars. And we haven't lifted a single one of our sanctions on Iran.
The U.S. Treasury will monitor the money and restrict its use to humanitarian purposes. But Iran's president...
Meaning, when they get the money, They can't use this money that's in there, that's $6 billion. They can't use it on anything but humanitarian, meaning food, you know what I'm saying, living conditions. They can't use it on weapons. There's still U.S. sanctions. The U.S. Treasury is monitoring the account. So they didn't get the money to do whatever the hell they wanted to do with it. And as soon as they start trying to do what they want to do with it, the U.S. will then step in, and the Qatar Bank was probably going to side with America, Switzerland, and South Korea and freeze those assets again. So this is a win-win for America. We get 5 people back and swamp for 5 for them. But we also now we have a closer monitoring over the $6 billion to make it go for good. Now I know they always saying America wants to go over there and do stuff, but this is just the way politics works, man. This is the way the world works. See, us, we're a micronism. We are in our houses right now. We don't have any say. So it's a lot. Like, this is $6 billion. We ain't got nothing to do with it, but we are monitoring it, and we still have sanctions over Iran and how they could spend the money.
Whose country is badly in need of economic relief, dismissed any limits.
The Islamic Republic of Iran will decide to spend it wherever we need it.
Republican Mike Turner, chair of the House Intelligence Committee, is concerned the financial relief will incentivize future hostage taking.
I mean, whenever you put a price on American heads, you get an incentive for people to take more hostages. These are
$6 billion in frozen oil revenue.
Billions and billions of dollars, and so that's a concern.
So joining me now is CBS News Chief White House Correspondent Nancy Cordes, normally at the White House, but you're here in New York because you're covering the UN General Assembly. So we got a chance to snag you to talk about this remarkable deal. What are we hearing from the White House? Why is this happening now?
Well, it's been in the works for a long time, and there were so many different pieces that had to come together. Just, for example, moving $6 billion from South Korea to this bank account in Doha required several steps. It had to be converted into euros from South Korean currency, and all of these restrictions had to be placed on how it can be used. And then beyond that, there's the question of the prisoners. Who is the U.S. going to release? Who is Iran going to release? On the U.S. side, we are releasing 5 individuals, some of whom have already seen their cases go through the court system, some of whom were still awaiting trial, but all of their cases had to do with nonviolent offenses. These were people, for example, who violated sanctions rules.
So for these 5, we released nonviolent criminals. I know one of them stole documents from his employer. They were trying to send technology equipment, laboratory equipment over to Iran from the United States. Nonviolent offenses, but it takes time to do all of this. It's not like you could just get up and say, hey, let's get our 5, you get your 5, let's make it happen. You see what I'm saying? It's a lot of moving parts. We had Switzerland come in, as I mentioned earlier. They were the liaison in Iran, escorting them to make sure that they get to the Qatar airport. So there's a lot of stuff that's put in place behind the scenes in order to make this happen. It's not just something you can get up and do and take care of in a week, because you got to get countries that are on board with it. You know, some countries are saying they didn't want to do it. Now the Swiss banks, they're a little bit different. So when you send that money there, they're trying to convert it over from this. I don't know what the South Korean currency is called. But yeah, once it gets over to Europe, the EU, they got to put it over into euros. And a lot of oil is sold through euros just because it's closer to, you know, to Europe. And that's usually what the Middle Eastern countries do. They sell it in euros. But
some of them we know are returning to Iran. A few of them, we don't know where they're going to go. It's possible they could stay in the United States.
Because legally, they would be able to stay in the United States,
right? These are usually dual citizens. So some of them had the right to be in the U.S. in the first place. Some of them may not want to go back to Iran.
Right. So let's talk about the component of the deal that has to do with the $6 billion.
Sure.
This is Iranian money that has been frozen. But it's still with controversy, because you want to know, how is this money going to be used?
Absolutely. I mean, massive controversy over so many different parts of this deal, but the money in particular, because obviously, you know, there are global sanctions on Iran because of human rights abuses, because of its nuclear program, and so on. And so what U.S. officials are saying is that, look, there are still going to be major restrictions on how Iran can use this money. They say this is Iranian money, by the way. This is money that South Korea paid Iran for oil long ago, but it just got frozen in South Korea. And so they say this is money that the Iranians are entitled to. They can have it, but because of international restrictions, they can't use it for everything. They need to use it for humanity.
Again, it's Iran's money. South Korea owes this money to Iran. So it's not America paying this price. It's South Korea giving the money that was theirs. Now, Iran is still suing Korea for $700 million. They're suing for $700 million, basically 10% of the 6 billion, 7 billion, whoever's numbers you go off. We just say it's the 10% to 700 million. So they're trying to get their funds back, which they are. But the only way you can get this money back, you can't use it on weapons. You can't use it on your military. You have to use it on humanitarian acts. Now, is that fair? I mean, depends on who you're asking. But I mean, it's sanctions just to try to protect people from this 6 billion being used for whatever. Now, we heard Iran talking about that they're going to use it for whatever, but they're not going to be able to with the U.S. Treasury watching it. And as soon as something happens like that, the assets will be frozen and it'll be stuck in the Qatar bank.
Humanitarian reasons for food, for medicine, things like that. Of course, critics will say, well, that's all well and good if they use it for those things, but obviously that frees up Iranian money to be spent on other things like their nuclear program. And so that's why there's a lot of controversy.
Nancy, great having you here. Thank you so much. We're going to pivot over to our chief foreign affairs correspondent, Margaret Brennan, who's also standing by for us. Okay, so Margaret, there's been all this sort of information floating around, but of course, when we're talking about, the release of prisoners, you don't want to get ahead of anything. You want to make sure that they are safe. So what do we know right now about where the prisoners are? Are they out of Iran? Are they safe?
Anne-Marie, the White House is now confirming that the 5 Americans and 2 of their family members have left Tehran on a Qatari plane. They are headed for Doha, and that is where they will finally be in U.S. custody. Right now, on that plane, they are accompanied by the Swiss ambassador to Tehran. That person is acting as America's eyes and ears because the United States does not have any diplomatic ties with Iran. We haven't for decades. And so the eyes and ears are the Swiss ambassador who has confirmed to the United States government that she has everyone. They have taken off and they are en route to Qatar. That is where they'll be on the tarmac for about an hour, according to what sources familiar have told me. They will be given cell phones that are U.S. government owned to be able to call their family members, and they will finally be free.
Now, Nancy and I were just talking about the component of this deal that has to do with the $6 billion that will be returned to Iran. I find it interesting. You talk about the Swiss, also the Qatari, the key roles that these 2 other sort of governments played in this, especially the Qatari government. Can you talk to us about the impact, the influence, the roles of these 2 other countries?
Yes. So because the United States doesn't have direct diplomatic ties with Iran, and in fact, all of the Biden administration's outreach to try to revitalize that diplomatic deal in regard to the nuclear program with Iran have failed to date. So negotiations regarding the prisoners have happened through third parties. They have happened through the Swiss, they have happened through the Qataris and other governments that deal with both parties in order to be able to move this along. That just gives you a sense of how complex and complicated this level of diplomatic negotiation is. Also, when you were talking about the money, there's a high degree of complexity here because of the really significant sanctions regime that the United States and some of the European powers have on Iran that has eroded in recent years because China and Russia will do business with them. But when it comes to using the United States dollar, the prime currency for global trade, the United States has tried to stop all that. So even just transferring money around, when we've talked about going from South Korea to Switzerland and then to Qatar, that's really hard. And in fact, European banks have required again and again the Biden administration to provide written confirmation that they will not be punished for doing what America is telling them to do.
You see what I'm saying? The banks in Switzerland was like, all right, we'll do it. But Switzerland's banks are a little bit different than everybody else. But none of the banks wanted to touch this money because if they say later on down the road, hey, you guys were the ones that helped out by giving Iran this money, then it's going to look bad for them. So they want written documentation from the United States of America saying, hey, if we help out and do exactly what you guys say, you can't hold this against us later on down the road, which is good. You want to always have everything documented. But that's why you see a lot of banks didn't touch it. But Switzerland, as I mentioned before, the Swiss banks is a little bit different than all the other banks in the European Union. So the EU is kind of like, if you looked at Europe is a, saying its own little continent, but each country, you consider it a state. You can consider it a state in Europe. So that's what the European Union is. That's why all of them share the euro. Some countries, they have their own money, but for the most part, if you're in the EU, you have your own, well, you don't have your own money. You all use the Europe currency, which is the euro. Now, the United Kingdom, they're kind of part of the EU. They're kind of separate from the EU. I don't know if they're officially with the EU anymore because they still go off the pounds, but they got a monarchy over there because they have a king now. But basically they saying, hey, US, if we help y'all out in this deal, y'all can't use it later on and say that, hey, we helped Iran out or Qatar.
Because that's how difficult navigating these sanctions are. So that degree of complexity in terms of the sanctions regime is why the U.S. Treasury is coming out and saying they're confident that they can control how Iran uses the money that will be put in this restricted account. Of course, as Nancy explained to you, money's fungible.
Right.
And so any financial relief can be used by the regime in another way. And that's why there is real controversy to this. But I just want to bottom line this, though, and remind everyone that these are really hard choices, and we can debate that diplomacy. But in this moment in time, there are 5 American families who are very, very excited that they may soon see their family members. And it's hard to even talk about it without getting choked up.
I can see, and I can understand why. I mean, for them, it's not about the global sort of negotiations. It's about their loved ones, which they probably get very little information about, don't know if they're healthy, if they're safe, and have no idea if they'll ever be coming home. And so this is the kind of relief you can't put into words.
Anne-Marie, Siamak Namazi is the longest held American in Iran. 8 years. He was left behind by President Obama. He was left behind by President Trump. And he is now coming home. It is hard to describe what 8 years in one of the most notorious prisons in the world.
We just went over that prison. He was in there doing the prison riots and fire breakout. They were getting shot in there. Well, he was in Ward 8. They moved him to 2A or something like that. But he was over here.
And being held in confinement will do to a person who is there conducting business as an American citizen, but happen to be of Iranian descent and have an Iranian citizenship.
So Nakima, these are they're Iranian. They have Iranian citizenships, but they're U.S. citizens. So these aren't soldiers. These aren't soldiers here. These are civilians that were over there working, and they were detained on some, some trumped up charges. So they're basically political prisoners. So it's not our soldiers over there, but American citizens.
Because of that blue passport, an American passport, he was imprisoned, along with others like Imad Shargi, Murad Tabaz, and the other 2 whose names we are withholding due to privacy requests. And that is something I think it's also worth talking about here. Hostage diplomacy is complex. It is complicated, but Americans may not know that the State Department puts out their warnings to Americans countries they shouldn't go to. And that's hard when you want to go home and visit family. And that's hard when you have affinity for a country.
Now, what she's talking about is the State Department. So while we were in the military, I told you guys we weren't, at certain points, we're not authorized to go places. Like for Russia, I had this lady that I worked with named Anthony. Her and her husband actually went to Russia. But in order to go to Russia, you have to get signed off by your commander. You have to go to the intelligence office. You have to do all these briefings about Russia before you go anywhere hostile. I mean, we do have restrictions in the State Department. You always want to look at that when you're traveling abroad, because it's going to tell you what level it is, what your concerns should be when you go over there, and what to look out for. They'll let you know if there's any, what they're doing right now. They're taking hostages. They're extorting people. There's a huge robbery. The State Department is going to let you know everything that's going on in that particular country if you're about to travel to it. So it's important to look into it because, I mean, you never know when you're going into these countries. Is there a potential for them to be protested next week? Let me see if I can pull up one for the countries.
But the United States is doing that now because of situations and families like this, that you can be taken simply because you're an American and you may not have committed a crime at all.
Margaret, it's a really good reminder, both points that you make about how, we're talking about people who, because there will be a conversation about, well, what were they doing? Why were they there? And it's a really good reminder that, sometimes, they're there just visiting family members, or it's just normal stuff that you should not be detained over, and you shouldn't be sort of, locked away for 8+ years or whatever. Margaret, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and that's one of the things on hostage diplomacy that we will have a conversation about, I think, in the days and weeks to come, is also this risk of putting a price on Americans' heads.
Yeah.
When any money is involved in a trade. That is part of the conversation that we should have outside the political space, because it is very real on hostage diplomacy. These are very hard choices, but there's an expectation from the American people that their president will bring them home and will be willing to go to certain lengths to do it. So the debate will now be, is it worth it? For these families, it is worth it. They expect their family members to be back on U.S. soil as soon as late today. And then those prisoners who will now be free Americans will go into treatment at a military facility here in the United States, in the D.C. area, to help them adjust to freedom. That can take days, that can take weeks. But they will begin to re-enter society. This is something also that the U.S. Congress has been talking about. Little things, your credit card bills, your rent. How do you deal with all that? The complications of that.
All right, we pretty much got everything out of that. But what they're talking about is basically transitioning back into the civilian world. So in the military, it's a federal mandate. Congress put it in. We got a thing called TAPS. It's transitioning back into the real world. So you take it, it's a 2-week course, but they also teach you that how to budget, how to go out and get the resources that you need for help. Because once you've been stuck doing the same thing over and over for a certain amount of years, even in the military, you don't know how it works in the civilian world. Because think about it. As a military member, if you go overseas, they pay for your housing. Now you got that extra money coming in. You might not look at that as a part of your budget, because each month they're going to give you a check that says this is how much your rent costs, this is how much you get. Stateside, let's just say you get $1,500. You can rent anything you want. If you get a place for $1,000, you get to pocket the other $500. So you'll make extra money, and plus you get about $330 a month to eat with for your groceries. But once you leave the military, all of that extra money that you were getting, they remove all of that. So you don't know how to move as a civilian, because a lot of people join at 18. So all of their knowledge comes from what the military provided for. So you need to be able to transition back into the civilian world. And that's why you see a lot of depressed veterans, because they're not used to not having structure, waking up every day, going to work, whether that's working out, getting off and doing activities after, you know what I mean? So that's why we have a program called TAPS that is very important for people to take. And it also gives you all the information of the benefits that you have. Now, that's something similar to what they're going to be going through. They'll probably have therapists talking to them. They'll go to mental health, see where they're at, see how stable they are. But if you go over to the State Department is what she's talking about. You can always visit this website. Do I have any concerns knowing that I'll be living and working in Germany? No. So for me, just being honest, I really look at life as, Mo, you got to go do it. If you don't do it, then you'll never know. So do I have any fears? I won't say any fears, concerns. Yeah. I want to know how it's going to be when I get there. Am I going to be able to hit the ground running, or is it going to take some time? Already in my head, I budget out. Maybe I'm looking at maybe 15 to 20 bands I'm going to spend when I first get there. 15 to 20, give me a spot, give me a nice little car or something, buy a whole new wardrobe. So I'm budgeting for about 15 to 20 off the top, but I don't know. On the civilian side, I've never been over there. So I don't know what steps I'm going to need to take. How is the process going to work with me getting a place? Because as a military member, again, we had a housing office. So you could go to the housing office, you bring the contract or the lease from whoever you're going to rent it from, the housing office takes care of that. Now, one of my concerns is, how am I going to do that as a civilian, because I don't have the military backing me to help me out? I mean, I can go to the housing office, but it'll be mainly me taking care of the business on my own. So that is one of my concerns. But am I really worried about that? I'm like, nah, because within a week or two, I'll be on my feet and back to going, you know what I mean? But there are a little bit of concerns. But as far as where I'm staying at, this is an hour away from where I stayed. This is an actual city that I'm gonna be in compared to where I lived in the country. But it's still surrounded by military bases, and I'm familiar with the area. Plus, I already have people I know living there. My dog Trill, why he hoop, he's actually going back to the original base where I met him. He'll be at Spain. I'll be down by Ramstein, Kaiserslautern area. So I'm not really worried about that. My whole thing is just getting there. You know what I mean? Because I go with the flow. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I get there, I know I'm gonna handle my job. I'm gonna take care of everything I need to do, because I know I got to do what I don't want to do to be able to do what I want to do. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, there are little concerns, but it's nothing that I'm worried about or that I'm a stress over. Like right now, I'm trying to take my driver's license, but since I'm not in the military, I don't have a government email at the time. So I got to contact my sponsor, and I'm waiting for them to give me the person's email that I can send my driver's license to, so they can unlock it for me so I can take my driver's test. So once I get there, that first weekend, I could probably try to cop me a car, or at least get me a rental car. So it's a little things like that. But for me, I don't stress out about nothing like that. If you don't take risk, you'll never know. So for me, it's like, it is what it is. I mean, of course, it's gonna be stressful moments, but I don't let none of that get to me, man. I done been through enough stuff in my life that it's like, man, little things like this, living situations, because I'm not hurting for anything. So if need be, I could go stay at a hotel for at least a month. You know, I don't want to spend that kind of bread, but if need be, I can. I'll just cut back on my expenses for like a car, the wardrobe. I have my people send over like some more of my clothes, because I'm not trying to go over there with two big heavy ass bags. I'll just get there and get fresh again. You know what I mean? Once I touch down, I'll make it happen. But for me, that's just, I don't know, man. Like I said, I went through a lot of shit. So for me, it's like, man, you got to do what you got to do, man. If not, then sit there and cry about the shit. And I ain't about to fuck all that. You know, I ain't letting that get to me. I got plans, baby. But yeah, over at the State Department. So I just typed in Iran. So Iran is a level 4, do not travel. When you go to the State Department, it tells you everything that's going on in these particular countries. Do not travel to Iran due to a risk of kidnapping, an arbitrary arrest, and detention of U.S. citizens. Exercise increased caution due to wrongful detentions. So when you go in here, any country you plug in, it tells you about it. So you got level 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now there's a lot of countries that are around 3 or 4, and for military members, we have to get signed off to even go to a level 3. A level 4, they won't even let you go to unless it's official business. Now, when we're in the there's another thing. You got a passport, and then you have your official passport. Now, your official passports you're supposed to use only when you're going on official work business. Now, I never got to use mine, but I had mine. I told you guys in 2016 I was supposed to go to Djibouti and do the water sampling down there because they were trying to start up a new base, but I didn't get selected. I went and got all the immunizations. I got the yellow fever shot, but they end up sending our lieutenant colonel down there. I'm kind of upset because I wanted to go down there for a month. But yeah, you got an official passport. Now the official passport is only good for about 2 years. I think maybe 2 years. It ain't the 10 years like a regular passport, and it's maroon. So I had one of those, but that passport they don't let you keep. You got to turn that in once you get out the military. But let me see. International travel. Let me see. So going to Germany is exercise, increase caution. Now in Germany, it's not really like that. I will say in 2000, I got there 13. I moved into my first crib 14. So in 2014, I will say the big scare in our area where we were living was basically home robberies. Now we had intelligence that Germany is a different country. Germany is different. I'm gonna explain a lot of stuff, but we did have briefings about it was a Turkish group. What they were doing is if you go outside on your sidewalk, this is some crazy shit. If you go outside on your sidewalk, there would be, or in the driveway, I mean, not the driveway, but in the street in front of your house, at one moment in time, they told us to be careful because there was a Turkish group and you would have like a triangle in the street or to be like 2 blocks and they all symbolize different things. I wish I would have had I wish I would have kept the documentation, but we had briefings over that. And what they were doing is, say if it's a triangle, I'm not sure what the symbols were, but if there was a triangle on the street in front of your house, that would indicate that a family lived there. Now, if there's like a 2 blocks, that would indicate that it was like only a woman living there. If it was like a line and it had like a squiggly something after it, it would be like it's insinuating that a family is there. But what they did was they would go around and have people watch the houses and they marked the streets. So later on that night, they would know exactly who's in the house because someone else already marked it, letting them know, hey, there are this many people in the house. And this would be on your streets. So if you ever seen any writing on the streets or on the sidewalk, they were informing us to wash it down, spray it down. So that's one of the things that were going on in Germany. But as I told you all, when I lived there, I didn't really care about none of that. Them niggas ran up in there, then it's gonna be what it is. You know what I mean? But because there's no weapons over in Germany. I mean, there's not weapons. There's no guns over in Germany. But they would try to break in your house and do things of that nature. Also, we had a briefing that in Germany is different. So in Germany, there were people, German citizens, that would go over to like Afghanistan and they would train with like Al Qaeda, but then they would come back. And the German government, how they looked at it was, you're a German citizen. What you do outside of Germany is all right, but they could come back and go to work and have regular jobs. So they were telling us to be aware of that. If you start seeing suspicious things, just be alert. But you can't report them unless they're doing a crime. So Germany was a little bit different. But I don't know how it is now. That was 2013 to 17. So that was going on while I was there. People would go over there and train and they would come back and they would go to work. But the German government, as long as you're not doing anything illegal here within the country, what you do outside, it didn't matter. Now, I'm pretty sure they probably changed it or something like that. But let me see. But yeah, it's just like little stuff like that. But that's no different than what we got going on here, man. You can't even go to a concert without people shooting. So for me, I just look at it like it is what it is, man. It is what it is. I mean, it's the world. Like, check it out. Germany, the country summary. Terrorist groups continue plotting possible attacks in Germany. Terrorists may attack with little to no warning, targeting tourist locations, transportation hubs, markets, shopping malls, local government facilities, hotels, clubs, restaurants, places of worship, parks, major sporting and cultural events, educational institutions, airports, and other public areas. So, I mean, it's no different than me being here. It's no different than me being here. If I Google Kansas City, it'll probably say there was a shooting yesterday. So, I mean, it is what it is. Now, you're less likely to get shot or anything over here because they don't have guns in the country. Now, I will say this. I was in Cologne one time. This is a true story. Me and my homie, I'm not going to mention his name, but me and my homie, it's one of the OGs, you know what I'm saying? He's a couple years older than me. It's one of my dogs, like my close friends. Me and him were in Cologne, Germany one time. Cologne is north of where we stayed. So you could drive up there. One thing I hated about driving to Cologne is when you're driving there, it's dark as hell when you're going up this road. But in Germany, the Autobahn, there's no speed limit. So when you're driving, the circle that has like 4 lines going through it means there's no speed limit. Do whatever the hell you want to. I'm talking. I put a Mitsubishi. This is a true story. A Mitsubishi Charisma. I never heard of this car. It was some shit from the Netherlands. I bought for 700 euro the first time I went to Germany. It was a little bucket, but it was a sweet little bucket. Man, I got that motherfucker up to 126 miles per hour. So I'm cruising, going to Cologne, speeding. Yeah, I won't even call it speeding because over there, like a Volkswagen, my bad, Volkswagen, those motherfuckers, they dipping. I'm talking about you on the road. Lamborghinis is flying past you. I'm doing 120. This is on a different occasion, but I'm doing 120 in my Mitsubishi Charisma, right? A little hatchback. I'm getting it too. Yeah, I'm doing 120. Listen to Cash Money for the 99 2000. Man, this motherfucking Ferrari came by me one day, and I'm talking about rocked my car. Right, I'm talking about I had to put 2 hands on the steering wheel. That motherfucker came by, had to do about 200. I promise you not. I'm on the Autobahn. I'm doing about $120. This motherfucker, whoa, that motherfucker come out like, oh shit, man, the fuck? That nigga was getting it, boy. Man, the Autobahn, hey, that shit crazy. That shit crazy over there, but I love it though. And the crazy thing is, for no speed limits, there's barely any accidents over there. The roads are clean as hell. The police are not going to chase you because most of the cars can outrun the police cars. You get on that Autobahn, I'm talking about you can hit that motherfucker. You can hit that motherfucker. Ooh, wee. Oh yeah, Kendall, right down the street from my man. I'm gonna show y'all where I lived at. I'm gonna show y'all where I lived at before I get out of here. Let me see. Do I got? I'm gonna show y'all my first house over in Germany. Then what was my first address? Was it 120? No, not 1207. That's my old address. So this is the base. So my first base that I was stationed at is right here. It's called Spangdahlem. So this is my base Spangdahlem here. Now my first house I lived in Bensfield. I had a 3-bedroom house, and in the basement I had this big ass red door. It's like a fire door, but this is where the furniture shit was. And I also had a huge tank for oil because you got to buy your oil over there. They don't do like the gas. You got to fill up the oil and then you turn that on and you run like that. So my first house in Bensfield was on the corner. I had the big house too. Let me see. So right here on this corner is where I stayed. This right here is my first house. Peter von Straff. So I live right behind the base. So here's the damn. So here's the base. Here's the flight line. This right here, where this plane is, this is the area where I when they thought that the pilots had Ebola, this is where it was. It looked just like this too. All the planes were moved, and I had to go onto the plane. And this is the passenger terminal over here. I used to have the key code because the fire department, they fuck with your boy. I used to be able to go over there on my own. But I live right behind the base, and this is my first house because you know me, I like to wake up late. So I could wake up at 7 o'clock and get to work by 7:30. Now, damn, they ain't gonna let me zoom in. There was like a little pond. Yep, there you go. So this is where I lived right here, Peter Von, 14 Peter Von. I ended up moving over to Spicer after that. But you go around this, you see this 50, you can go around the 50 to get to the main gate, or you can take the 50. You take the 50 over to the 60. And once you get on the 60, this is the Autobahn right here. The 60 is the Autobahn. Man, look at this road. Look at this. I'm talking about you can fly down this. Look at the 60. Look at the 60. And the 60 is just the beginning. Now, this is Wittlich. Now, over in Germany, W's are V. So it is called Volkswagen. It's not Volkswagen. It's Volkswagen. So this is called Wittlich. Wittlich was like a little town next to us. They ended up putting a hookah bar over here. But you hit this 60 and then you get on to the 1. Oh, man, the 1 to take you down to Trier. Now, Trier, I used to Trier up. Trier, they had the mall down in Trier. I'm talking about you get down to the mall in Trier, they had a Zara in there, and that's why I used to tear up Zara, man. I used to spend, no lie, every Friday, every week, I would spend about $300 on shit from Zara, man. Boom, 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 boom. Buying all that shit. They dropping shit off at the house, so I go pick it up from the store. Now, where I'm gonna be living at now, where's the 60 at? All right, Trier. If you don't get off of the 1, you stay on the 60. Now, the 60 is gonna take you to Kaiserslautern. So this is where I'm gonna be living at this time. I'm gonna be living in Kaiserslautern. This is Ramstein. This is the biggest Air Force base in Europe. And then over here, this is Landstuhl. Landstuhl is the biggest military facility, medical facility in Europe and Africa. So anyone that's deployed and they get hurt in Africa or in the Middle East, they typically fly them over to Landstuhl. Now, what I'm trying to do is get me a job in Landstuhl. I want to be at the hospital. I want to do like QC samples, but right now I'm gonna be in Kaiserslautern working because they were the first one to offer me a job and gave me an opportunity. So I'm gonna go over there, do my thing, and be applying for other jobs at either Ramstein, the big base, the Air Force base, because I'm gonna be at an Army base over here, or get to Landstuhl. Now, Landstuhl is an Army base, but all of the military go there. So whenever when I had that scratch on my cornea, I had to go over to Landstuhl. This is where I found out that I had glaucoma. What else happened here? Oh, when I tore up my what was it? Oh, my knee. I went down to Landstuhl. So I would book all my appointments at Landstuhl on Friday. My homeboy stayed over here, but I'm actually gonna be staying in the actual city. I'm gonna be staying over here in the actual city this time. Hey, my dog Trill's in here. Hey, my dog Trill going back to Spain, man. Me and Trill, no lie, dog. Hey, we was on some G shit back in the day. Pause. So me and my dog Trill, hey, you gonna live in? I'm not gonna show where we lived at in Spicer. You know, I ain't gonna show where we lived at in Spicer because you might be pulling back up to the same crib. Me and my dog Trill. So I had the 3-bedroom house. Hey, Trill. So Trill was living in the dorms when I got my first house. Once Trill moved off, Trill moved into these townhomes. And he was like, hey, bro, come fuck with these townhomes. So I ended up moving over to the townhomes, moved out of my house. They came over, helped me move everything. So they loaned me out like a refrigerator. I had to take my own refrigerator with me. I had to get all like the furniture that they loaned out to me. So me and Trill moved into Spicer. He lived there first. I'm like, damn, this is straight. You come in the house, you got a bathroom by the entrance. You got your kitchen to the right. You go straight, then you can go downstairs. You got a laundry room downstairs. Nice setup. You go into your living room, and then the dining room is connected to the living room and the kitchen. You go upstairs, you got a 3-bedroom up there. I had my master bedroom with the bathroom. You got the bathroom in the hallway. I had a guest bedroom with a bed and a TV in there. And then my third room, that motherfucker was a closet. I'm talking about that motherfucker was nice. I was living the dream. Man, you remember last night I was telling you guys what if? What if I would have turned that motherfucker into a studio? Man, I would have been lit. But you can't live off of what ifs. So now when I go back, I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna set up a studio. We're gonna be on here. We're gonna be niggas in Germany watching Tubi movies from America. That's what we're gonna do. We still gonna be doing the Mo, you know. I ain't gonna lie, I'm excited to get over there. My dog Trill about to be over there. 2024 Olympics, we about to hit that up. We're gonna go to a couple of the basketball games. I'm about to tear motherfucking Europe up this time, man. And I'm gonna open up a Swiss bank account and put 20 bands in that motherfucker. I'm gonna go get me a Swiss bank account this time. I'm gonna drop 20 off in there, man. I'm gonna save up and put 20 in there. Now I've been to Stuttgart is where's Stuttgart at? Stuttgart is kind of far from us. So you gotta remember, so there's kind of like boundaries. You know what I mean? It's kind of like territories over here. So for us being Spain Dahlem, we were considered the country niggas because we live like you can smell the cows. Like in Germany, all of the food is local. So it's the cows, if it's the deer meat, all of that. Like you'll go to restaurants and in the back of the restaurant, you'll see an open field and just have deer back there because they raise the deer and then they slaughter the deer to eat. Now for us, mind you, all right, see, Spain Dahlem ain't even on the map, but we'll just say Bitburg. So for us, this area right here is where we live. Frankfurt is about 2 hours away from us. Kaiserslautern and Ramstein is about an hour. So for us, we got Cologne, we got Belgium. You can go to Brussels. You can go to Yeah, you can go to Belgium, you can go to Luxembourg. This is what was close for us. But everyone that was at Kaiserslautern, Ramstein, they could go to Stuttgart, they could go to Nuremberg, they can go to Munich because they were already closer. So for them, it may have been a 2-hour ride, maybe 3 at the most. For us, it's like 4 or 5-hour rides. So we didn't really go too far on that side unless it was a special event. You know what I mean? Unless it was a special event, we wasn't going over there. But oh yeah, I was telling you about Cologne. Going to Cologne was about an hour and a half drive. But I'm going to Cologne one night. I'm dipping too. I got that music playing. I ain't gonna lie to you, I had a piece of shit car, but I bought it for 700 euro, but it lasts for 3 years. See, for me, I'm thinking, all right, if I could spend something on a reliable car, 700 euro at the time was probably about 900, maybe $1,000. But that car lasts me for 3 years. And then once that car was done, my homegirl, Blackman, her husband had went back to the States, so I was driving a Honda, you know what I'm saying? Because that's how it is. It's like a family over there. I used to give my keys to my dogs, like, hey, if you live in the dorms and I fuck with you, pause, then I'll let you get my keys. So you ain't got to be on the base all weekend because I'm always looking out, you know, it's like little bros to me, you know what I mean? So I'm driving up here, and mind you, the Autobahn, this is how they get you. The Autobahn, no speed limit. You doing, let's just say you're doing 100. You'll come up to a town and the speed limit will drop down to 45 kilometers. So you doing, let's just say you're doing 90 kilometers. It drops down to 45, but there's no warning. And right after that, there's going to be a damn camera. Man, I'm dipping. Boom, that motherfucker flashed in my face. I'm like, God damn it, they didn't got me. Man, I thought it was further up. Man, they caught my ass. Man, I was doing probably like, I was probably like on some real shit. I was like 100 kilometers over the speed limit, dog. That motherfucker said like 45, man. I was getting it too, boy. There they got my ass. That motherfucker lit up too. That motherfucker, whoo. Like, God damn it. When I came to work, 2 weeks later, when I came to work, they sent the ticket, right? Oh, we got this bulletin board in the hallway. So we got a sign out board whenever you leave the office, just so we can keep track of everybody in case of a recall. Now, a recall happens, say that the base is about to get locked down or something bad has happened. They got the recall. And the recall, you got the recall roster, it's got everybody's number on it. So when somebody calls you, you're supposed to notify the next person. And so on, so on. And then the last person to contact the top to let the whole chain of command know that everything is connected. Boom. Hey, I'm safe. All right, you need to call the next person. Bet. You call the next person, and if that person doesn't answer, you tell the person above you, hey, this person didn't answer, so they can try to either put somebody out to look for them, make sure they're not hurt. So on the sign out board, we had a bulletin board next to it. So I'm coming in to move my piece saying that I'm in the office in the morning time. But when I walk by, I look and it's a piece of paper on there. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's me. There's a speeding. They put my speeding ticket on the wall. They ain't put none of the other people's speeding tickets on the wall, but they figured that they're gonna put my speeding ticket on the wall. I took that shit off the wall, man. The fuck y'all putting my speed? Y'all ain't put no one else's speeding ticket on the wall. They put my shot, ripped that motherfucker off the wall. Like, nigga, Kobe, you know what I mean? I threw that motherfucker. They put my shit on the wall. I'm trying to sign in for work. Crazy times, man. Crazy time. They tried to pull the okey doke on your boy, but that's one thing about Mo. The okey doke don't work on Mo. I do the okey dokey. You know what I mean? I do the okey dokey. Y'all don't pull the okey dokey on me. I do the okey dokey. You know what I mean? But good times, man. My dog Trill used to come over there. I ain't gonna lie. So Trill, he in the med group too, but you know, we ain't gonna give away too much information. Y'all ain't about to be looking up my dog. You know what I mean? Y'all not about to try to get him in the okey doke. But my dog Trill, me and him, we both in the med group. We hooped together. We played football on the same team. Trill actually was good at football, but that nigga quit on us the first season, though. This nigga, he don't like playing football. They threw Trill to football. Like, this is no lie. They threw Trill to football, like, on the first drive. This nigga scored an 80-yard touchdown, bro. And we like, hey, Trill, hey, we need you to play this week. He like, nah, man, I don't know if I want to. Dog, the first 2 games Trill scored in, he quit after that. I'm like, man, what the hell? Trill left us hanging out there, bro. Now we didn't win until my 4th year. We got close every year, but we won the championship my year I retired, so that's good. But yeah, that's my dog Trill, man. That's my dog Trill, man. He be going over to Brussels. He be going to the movie theaters. Me, I don't do none of that. You know what I mean? I be chilling. Look, that's why Trill is laughing. Trill was a monster in football, man. We used to always need players. Trill talking about, I ain't playing. Like, nigga, we seen you could play, dog. And he didn't even want to play. They hiked the ball. This nigga Trill turned around. They threw him the ball. He caught that motherfucker. That nigga got a lot. Like, damn, I ain't never seen Trill run this fast. No lie, though. You know what I mean? I always hype up the team. I'm not no basketball player. Trill can hoop. Trill can hoop. But the only knock on Trill, no disrespect, Trill. Trill don't be being motivated out there, dog. Trill be bullshitting. Trill will get out there and give you 20 points a night. But if Trill is bullshitting, you might be like, man, what the fuck are you doing, Trill? This nigga Trill come through, he give you this little, it's like, I don't know how you call it. It's like a lazy crossover, but he'll give you a lazy crossover across you and then go for a floater. I'm like, hey, man, do that every time. He's like, man, he'll pass out. I'm like, man, score, dog. Score. Dog, my nigga Trill could hoop. I ain't gonna lie. We had us a nice squad, too, man. I fucked that up, dog. I was like the Draymond Green of the team. My last year, we were going to the championship, but I got kicked out of the basketball tournament because I fought another dude. Because we had a dude on our team named Tree. He was 6'7", nigga could hoop. Now, this dude was real good. He could have played for like the Air Force team. Believe it or not, niggas join the military and they just hoop. They don't go to work. They just play basketball. Their job is to play basketball in the military. Tree could have did that, but his leadership was fucking over on him. Tree 6'7". So Tree was the best player on our team. So another guy fouled Tree, but I already knew that they had some issues outside of it. Well, he didn't. His homeboy did because he thought that his girl wanted to talk to Tree. And I was like, that's some lame shit anyway. You know what I'm saying? If she want to fuck with my dog, then let her fuck with my dog. But anyway, we hooping. So Tree went in, he tried to do a hop step, but they called a foul. So they got locked up. Tree had the ball like this, and old boy tried to snatch the ball. But when he did that, he threw Tree on the ground. So I took the ball because Tree is our best player. We got to protect our number one asset. I took the ball, threw the ball at the nigga, and rushed the nigga, and we got to fighting. And I got suspended because he threw the best player on our team down. I wasn't going to let that slide. If I let that slide, like Tommy Egan said, we have a reputation here. My name is fucking Mo on this base. They used to call me Juco on that base. They know what I'm about. They know that these niggas ain't fucking with me. They know that these niggas is clowns, so I got to fight and we got suspended. We ended up coming to second place and losing to that team in the championship because we had to play back-to-back games, all because I fucked up. But the only reason we lost that game because we was about to skunk their ass. This dude, Isaiah, came on our team. He showed up late, and the referee didn't play. His name was Mr. V. He said, you know what you did? Mr. V didn't play around. He get on the bench. He talking shit after the fight. This nigga disqualifies our team. We forfeit the game. Them niggas get the dub. So in the championship game, we got to beat them twice, but I don't get to play. Man, I screwed them over, man. I apologize every day, man. I fucked them over, man. I should have controlled my anger. I should have controlled, but it was in the heat of the moment, man. They threw our best player down. This nigga's name is Tree, man. So I ended up getting suspended from the thing. I went to work the next day. They talking about, oh, you. I was like, man, it wasn't even really a fight like that. I threw the ball, I punched them 2 times, and they broke the shit up. Like both of the teams ran out there, they broke it up. It wasn't even a real fight, man. It wasn't even Trill. Was it a real fight? Trill, was it a real fight? Was it a real fight? I just threw the basketball at him. He threw Tree down, so I snatched the ball from him, threw it at that nigga face, and we didn't even really fight. It was just 2 punches. It was just 2 punches, and they got me up out of there. Ain't no one called a flagrant foul. Ain't no one called a foul. They should have did. If they would have did their job as referees, called that flagrant, got him out the game, we wouldn't have had this. Matter of fact, when I get back, I might be suing Spangdala. I might have to go back and sue somebody. I was wrongfully suspended, man. That suspension was not valid or warranted. Oh, hell no. They tried to get me up out of there. They tried to get me up out of there, though. Fuck it. Fuck it. Guess what, though? The whole base, everyone that plays sports, they all voted for me to come back for football. And what did we do when we came back for football? I terrorized each and every one of them motherfuckers until we won a championship. That's what I did. I came back and whooped they ass. Everybody. I ain't give a fuck. No prisoners. Whooping y'all ass on the new field, too. So the last thing I did was bring that trophy to the Med crew. I had to do something. I had to make up for it, man. It was a good time in Germany, man. Let me tell you, that had to be probably the funnest 4 years of my life. From 13 to 17, man. Germany was different. Germany was different, man. Although we share. Let me see something. Hey, what I say? Don't play with me. Don't play with me. Play with your what? Don't play with me. Play with your what? Don't play with me. Whoop niggas' asses for fun, man. Don't play with me. Before the hip went out, before the knees were bad, before arthritis in the ankles, I was whooping niggas' asses, nigga. They talking about, man. Man, listen. Facts. My first year I came over there, I got to Germany in November 2013. January of 2014, they were talking about Mo come to Italy with us to play for the European Championship. Now, we went over there and got our ass whooped, but they already knew what it was. I had just came off of the torn ligament in my ankle. They were talking about, Mo, we heard about what you were doing down in Georgia. Do you want to play with the team? We went over to Italy and got our ass whooped, man. But shit, I was over there. We got like third place. Yeah, man. Yeah, Kendall, that's me, man. You know, I couldn't have the beard all the way. You know, I had to cut the beard down. But I was growing it out a little bit. This is when I first started growing the full beard. I would cut it off on Sunday and I would let it grow for 2 weeks. So that next Friday when I go out, I can get it lined up. Now, I used to have braids too when I was in the military. Yeah, man.
Damn, man.
They didn't even get the whole footage though.
Old boy hurt, man.
But look at that. Look at your boy, man. Look at your boy, man. I got my elbow above the fucking rim, man. I used to have some fucking bunnies, man. I used to have some goddamn bunnies back in the day, man. Trill used to throw me oops, 2-hand. Oh, shit. Man, hey, old Mo was different. Old Mo was different, man. It was the same court that I ended up having to get suspended on. But man, when I tell you, boy, it was, whew. We had this dude we called Curry. Well, I called him Curry to piss everybody off. It was a light-skinned dude, Thompson. But he used to shoot from half court. That nigga used to hit. So I used to call him Curry to make everybody mad. Man, one game we were playing against them. He went for a layup. Trill had like bumped him a little bit. Trill bumped him. He went for a layup. I came and caught that motherfucker out the air, Paul. Sent that shit to the bleachers. Get that shit out of here, nigga. He gonna turn to the referee like, man, you don't hear them cursing? They ain't called nothing, nigga. We was hooping. Damn. Yeah, Eric, you know what? Bunnies, boy. Hey, don't play with your boy. Don't play with your boy. Don't play with your boy, Eric. Don't play with your boy. My dog, shout out to my dog Lansky. He gave me the Kyries because I told him I ain't spending no $100 on no basketball shoes. I ain't no hooper. So he gave me the Kyries, and I said, let me do my thing. Trill gave me some LeBrons. I said, let me do my thing, man. Y'all need defense and rebounds? Holla at your boy. Holla at your boy, man. The good old days, man. I'm telling you, if they would have put me in high school, we would have won state. We would have won state, man. But Germany was a time. I don't think there's ever going to be an era like that. 13 to 17, the music was good. 17, 38. You know what I'm saying? 13 to 17 was a time to be alive, bro. Time to be alive, man. Look at that.
Damn, man.
That's Trill talking too.
Old boy hurt, man.
Hell yeah, sneakers make a difference. Imagine me trying to get out there and dunk at some Chuck Taylors. Yeah, man. Germany, hey. My dog Trill, I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm hyped because it's like it's nostalgia. You know what I mean? My dog, like, I met Trill, true story. I've known Trill for about it's 10 years. This year, November, it'd be 10 years since I met Trill. So I like not even like being disrespectful, nothing. I watched this young man grow from 18 years old to 28. You know what I mean? 29 years old. So I've been knowing Trill for 10 years now. So that's like a close friend to me. When he was in the dorms, I used to give him the key, come to the crib. Hey, I'm about to go out of town, man. You can use the crib if you ain't trying to stay on base. Man, that's like a brother to me, man. It's like a brother to me, man. Nah, I ain't coming out on retirement. If I go back, if I play sports, I will play softball. Would y'all be up to watching me play softball, like me recording softball? Because if I play softball, I ain't gonna lie to you, I might be the baddest motherfucker over there, to be honest with you. If I get into softball, they might have some problems. But yeah, I'm gonna see if there's a softball team that I can get on. So I'm gonna be flying into Frankfurt, fly into Frankfurt. But the best airport in Germany, in my opinion, ain't Frankfurt. It's this place. Hold on. I think Trill knows what I'm talking about too. Frankfurt Hahn. This is my favorite airport right here. Small airport. But the thing about Europe, it's so cheap to travel over there. It's so cheap to travel in Germany. Well, in Europe general, like the good thing about Germany is kind of like the centerpiece of Europe. You know what I mean? As far as the countries you're going to go to. So you look at Germany here, then you got France right next to it, the UK, the Netherlands. But Frankfurt Hahn, watch this. They got this airline called Ryanair. This is the best airline ever because it's cheap. So let's just say I'm leaving from Frankfurt Hahn. And I want to go to Italy for the weekend. I just told you Italy, man. Oh, we're going to do Italy. We're going to go to Rome. Now, let's just say I get over there. Let me see. We're going to go December, the first weekend of December. We're going to leave on the 1st. Look at these flights, y'all. From Germany to Rome is only $31. It's only $31. This is why you like when you get to Europe, I tell you, don't stay in one place for a week, 2 week travel. It's only a 2-hour flight from Germany to Rome for $31. Now you do got to pay for your bags. You pay for everything. But if you're only going there for a short weekend, you can do a carry-on bag and not have to pay for your bags and get a round trip for, let's just say we're taking this flight. Return ticket, $27. Now I can go ahead and do the regular. I can do the plus for $33 on each flight. Let's do this. Let's do the plus on $125 round trip to Rome, checking in your bag. You get one check bag, a round trip to Rome and back for $125. Now you see why when I went to Europe in March of last year, you travel so much. It's only $100 to go. And if you buy it early enough, like if I didn't put this flex on here and didn't check a bag, this shit would be $50. Look, includes a 20 kilogram check bag. Now 20 kilograms is about 30 pounds, 30 pounds. $45 bag for $125. Well, Kendall, you probably wouldn't fly Ryanair because this $120 is too cheap for you. But to me, it's the best because it's a small airport. They have multiple airlines, so you got them there. It's a couple of other ones, discounted airlines. But the airport is small. You get in and out. You can literally show up like an hour before, show up, and you can get to wherever you got to go. And the reason this airport was better for me than Frankfurt, the main airport, Frankfurt International, is because Frankfurt Hahn was 45 minutes away from us. Now with Ryanair, these deals here, like you can't pass up a weekend trip for $125. If I wanted to go somewhere this weekend, MCI to Dallas. So this is from Germany on November 30th to December 7th. Let's see. November and return month will be in December. So what is this? Departs. We supposed to be in November 30th to December 8th. We already at double the price. We already at double the price to fly from one city to another, not another country. But we at $100 more than what it costs for me to go from Germany to damn Italy to go to Rome. What am I gonna go down to Dallas and watch the fucking Mavericks for $237 when I could go to Rome for $125? Now I will say the seats they are kind of close, but you can pay that extra for the leg room. You can pay that extra for the leg room. We're gonna log in later. Mr. Don Julio. Boom. Mo, you want that extra leg room? Go ahead and sit up here for a quick little 6-piece. Oh, fuck that. Why we sitting there? Let me get this motherfucker extra large. Let me get the extra large leg room up front for $13, not $200, not $1,000. I want the extra leg room in the first seat for $13 upgrade. I don't know what it feels like to sit back here. Look, you can pick your seat for $1. For $1, you can pick the front seat. Look at this. Look at this. You can get a quick 6 off for the next row. What? I might sit over here today. I don't know. Fuck it. I got a lot of money. If you want to roll with me, I'm going to get 2 seats. $26 for extra leg room. Oh my gosh. Ryanair, y'all should hire me to do the advertising. You know what I'm saying? The marketing for y'all. Oh, you got the stretch out for less? The XLs in the mid compartment for $7? Oh, Lord. Oh Lord, you mean I can get the XL stretch out for less for $7? All of this is a pause, but oh my God. For $6 less than the front row, I can go to the extra stretched out leg room. Oh, no, they didn't. Oh yeah. And when we went to Portugal, you would fly on like a small plane like this. You would go from like Frankfurt Hahn, because a lot of these countries, their tourist destinations, they can't build big airports. They can't have international airports. So a lot of the places you'll land and then you got to drive an hour to get to the actual destination. But that's just how Europe is. They have all these little small hubs all around that you can go to. So traveling is real easy over there. Not to mention you have trains that can get you from one place to another also. Nah, Kendall, I'm just giving you a hard time. But yeah, like Trill said, DDG, when we went to Portugal last summer, DDG was on the plane with us. It was just a regular plane like this. It wasn't nothing fancy, but that's the only way you can get there. And then you got to ride an hour from the airport to the beach. DDG is if you don't know who DDG is, he's the guy I showed you guys on live stream last night that got slapped. They broke in his house and slapped him. So he was on this plane with us. But yeah, man, Europe is different. Europe is different. So that's why no matter what I got to go through to get over there, I know I'm going to make up for it on the tail end by going and just traveling and just see different stuff. But I'm definitely going to see a lot of other places this go round. Yeah, man. $120 flight and go to Rome and back. Look, flights from 34 euro, well, 34 USD. We can get gifts with Ryanair gift card. Let me see. I might buy myself one. We're gonna do this one right here. We're gonna put it in euro. What's the most we could put on here? We're gonna do $1,000 gift card. Yeah, we seen DDG. I ain't gonna lie, he had his chain tucked until we got down by immigration. When we got off the plane in Portugal, he untucked his chain when we were in line for immigration. I said, man, ain't nobody gonna rob you out here, man. You ain't gotta tuck your chain, man. But shout out to DDG, man. Young man getting money. He just got caught up. Kendall said, I bet those flights are crowded. Believe it or not, Kendall, they not. Believe it or not, you'll get on these flights and they won't even be all the way full unless unless you're going on a holiday. If it's a holiday, these flights will be packed. But for the most part, when you get on, they're probably like 70% full capacity. It really don't be packed like that. But if you paying the extra to sit up front, you know, it don't matter what they doing in the back. You know what I mean? But one thing I don't like though is when we land, like flying is a different experience depending on the crowd that's on the airplane over in Europe. Because once you land and you'll just hear everybody, yeah, they clapping and stuff. I'm like, hey man, we landed the plane, y'all. Calm down. You know what I mean? But they treat that like, hey, you know, we did our thing. But during some flights, don't let it be a group of like soccer fans on there. They'll get to singing and stuff. Oh, I don't even know what the songs they sing. But shit, for $120, man. Oh yeah, you start drinking on that plane before you land. It's all to the bueno, man. But I love it, man. Like I said, I got a lot of plans on what I want to do now. I do want to take the train more places. Use that more often because I can get everywhere. I'm gonna try to rent the little private rooms on the train, so hopefully the internet's good, so we can watch a Tubi movie on the train. Then that kind of sounds like a scary movie. Tubi on a train. Tubi on. I might write that movie. I might do that. Tubi on a train. But man, thank y'all for tuning in. I got something special tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday Mistakes on MoeDotJ's channel. I got something special for y'all. You know what I mean? Hopefully y'all enjoy it. You know what I mean? So we got that tonight. Should be a grand on time. Shout out to my dog Trill. We headed back to Deutschland. You know what I mean? It's crazy how the world works. I appreciate all of y'all. And man, I'll see y'all tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. Should be a good time, man. Hopefully we can play the Arthur song. Hopefully we can play the Arthur song later on tonight. But hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for me, man. The 5 Americans, they're returning home, y'all. And we didn't have to give up $1. Regardless of what Trump said, we didn't give up $1. And we're monitoring the money. That's a win-win. We released the money, but you can only use the money for good. So it's a win-win, but don't let Trump fool you. He got a lot of stuff on his plate right now, so I don't think he's thinking clearly at the moment. You know what I mean? I don't think he's in the right mind frame. But hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, y'all, man. I appreciate y'all for real, for real. Bye-bye.